I just want to start with somewhat of an introduction of your background. First, thanks again for being here, spending the day at Stritch. As a proud alumni at Stritch, you've been a great spokesperson out in the community. Today's really a time to tell your story, some of your path, and have a discussion. So, could you start with that, about a bit of your path to where you come today, and then if there's any particular turning point that stands out, to share that.
Okay, thank you. Well, as you know, I grew up in Jamaica. I lived there for many, many years. Worked at this wonderful company, Grace Kennedy. I worked there for a number of years. And it's a large company. We have many different divisions and stuff like that. So I started out in the supermarket division. Then from there, I went into the corporate office. I worked there in marketing and sales. I actually got into a management position. Actually, the position was a key account manager, which is dealing with some of the company's largest account, which was very impressive at the time because, it's a really big multi-million-dollar corporation. I left Jamaica in 2000. That's the year I got married. And then, I moved to California. Got to California. Very exciting place, Silicon Valley. Everything was really buzzing and humming back then. And I ended up working in the restaurant business, which was very, very, very good. But the reason why I ended up in the restaurant business is because when I lived in Jamaica, I consider myself an entrepreneur. So besides having a really successful, what am I trying to say? A recycling business. I also had a little restaurant. So using the experience I had from running my own restaurant when I got to California, it was very easy to get into the restaurant business. Now, I worked with this company called Armadillo Willis. They said they're the best barbecue south of the Mississippi and also west of Texas and, just name it. So really and truly, it was really good get into the whole barbecue experience. We lived there for a while, and then from California, we moved to Milwaukee. And I found Milwaukee to be a very different place, let's put it that way. Compared to Jamaica, compared to California, it was just different, very unique in itself. I got a job at Home Depot at the time. I wasn't necessarily looking for a job at Home Depot per se, but I went there. I was very excited just to be in the store, all the tools and everything. I'm just like, wow, this is a great place to work. So I applied for a job there, and I was accepted. But incidentally, before I took the job at Home Depot, I also applied at a major financial company to be a financial analyst, and that's where I was going to work. So I sort of moved away from that, and I took the job at Home Depot because for some strange reason, I was just very, very excited to be at Home Depot. Now, I worked at Home Depot for a number of years, and the way I viewed Home Depot was, Home Depot for me wasn't necessarily a job. I know it might sound kind of strange because yes, I was getting a paycheck, but to me, it's almost like they were teaching me a whole bunch of stuff and paying me at the same time to learn. And I found myself learning how to do ceramic tiling, how to install carpet, how to do window blinds, ceiling fans, all the various things that they would normally teach someone so you could serve the customer much better. As the years went by, I found myself teaching many of the classes. So on Saturdays, I would teach the clinics, that they call it, how to do ceramic tiling, how to do various things. So from there, I started my own home improvement business, which was Plunkett Home Improvement and Construction. So you kind of see how things kind of roll from one thing into the next, and that's basically where it was. Now, where the whole MPS situation came in, I'm always working, so it wasn't like I was looking for an opportunity or looking to be a teacher at MPS. It's just that MPS were constantly looking for teachers, and the information came to me, hey, why don't you actually go to MPS and teach? So of course I applied, I got in, and I was more like you call it a sub. So I was going to various schools at different points in time. in, said, oh, we need you at this school, and we need you here, and all of this. And I got to MPS, and you hear all these negative things. MPS is these terrible schools, and they're this and they're that. And coming from Jamaica, I got in the classroom and I was like, wow, man, they have everything here for the kids to be successful. I mean, why are these kids failing? Because just name it, whatever the kids need to be successful was actually there in the classroom. So that to me was a strange thing.
So thanks for sharing that. And I know people are going to be asking more about your business today, but just, if we could go back a little bit to that transition from Jamaica, which I think is really a big part of your story and very interesting, about doing business there and learning about business there and then trying to be and becoming successful in business here. Can you talk some about the differences and similarities?
Sure. Well, let me just start out by saying that Jamaica in itself is a beautiful country. It has great people living there, and they're very, very hardworking. So as a result of that, I would say it's very easy for Jamaicans on a whole to transition anywhere that they go, because there's a lot of social services that you have here in this country in America that is just not there in Jamaica. For example, simple. If you're in Jamaica, if you lose your job for whatever reason, if you get laid off or if you quit, there is no such thing as unemployment. There's nothing like that. There's really nothing for you to fall back on. So when you really think about that, it's always like you're in a mindset of survival. How do I survive? How do I get to the next point? As a result of that, when you come to another country like America, all you see in front of you is opportunity. So where others may just see destruction and poverty and everything is falling apart, you see the possibilities, you see what's possible, and therefore you're always looking for the opportunity.
So at some point along the way, you saw the possibility of going on for further education. And I know you're pursuing a doctorate now, but you came to Stritch for your master's.
That is correct.
So could you talk a little bit about how that figured into the path?
Well, looking at the whole situation from education, I guess I've been in school forever. I mean, forever and ever. It just seems like it's never ending. I hope it will end pretty soon, as soon as I finish with this doctorate. I started out doing double major in business management and marketing. That was my undergrad. Then I got into the master's program here at Stritch. Then, Milwaukee School of Engineering, where new product management and development, and then we're looking at the doctorate and stuff like that. And then also I did go to Marquette University, where I studied real estate development there. So if you look at all of that experience in terms of getting all this knowledge, then everything just sort of come together, and that's the reason why I would say I'm able to use knowledge and sort of propel whatever I'm doing.
So there's a lot of faculty in the room. So I just want to warn you for this question. Is there a particular class that you found has helped in growing your business now? Or how would you say you could apply some of the things that you got from the MBA into what you're doing now?
All the classes I took here at Stritch were great, and all of them.
Such a different answer.
Yeah, no, seriously, all the classes I took here at Stritch were just wonderful classes. There's one class, there are usually classes that you remember very well, and maybe a class that you really struggle in. And I told you before, that class we took with Greg, it was a statistics, and that was really a tough class. It was really a tough class. I remember that one. For some strange reason, I don't want to stand up. And but everything else was really good. Particular the econ. I really like economics. Econ 1, econ 2, stuff like that. Finance classes, because you're able to understand money and how you do things. You understand interest rate. You understand how things move and how the economy works, and that's very, very, very good.
Could you transition a little bit from that to your daily work and your purposes of your focus of your business? This is called Business Leaders with a Conscience, and one question that we always ask is that in your business, how do you go about trying to align your decision making with your values? So if you could talk about that and maybe give some specific example of the development business you're in.
Okay. Well, the nature of the business is real estate, so I consider myself a real estate investor slash social entrepreneur. The reason why I say social entrepreneur is because I look at it this way. If you are working in a particular community and you are doing business there, then it makes sense to do something to help the community as you go along. Because by helping the community becoming better, then I would say it makes sense for your bottom line from a business perspective. So in that sense, I can go back to the values of Cardinal Stretch, where Cardinal Stretch is about this ripple effect. You know, wherever you go to work, you need to do good. If you do good for the community, then the community will do good by you. So I do accept that as part of the Stretch value. And in business, it makes sense. It makes sense that the people that you're serving in the community, you treat them with respect. It makes sense also that you let them know that you value them being a part of what you're doing. And once you create that level of value and that level of trust and camaraderie, then you find that your business turned out to be much more successful than if you were just there to just make money.
So could you give maybe one of the examples? Garfield's talked to a number of students today, and one example you were talking about is when a tenant is struggling. So you have many tenants,
Right.
And there's different ways you can handle it when someone doesn't pay their rent. And you talked about ways that you feel like you can have an impact on the individual and the community through that.
Yeah, that's correct. There are situations.
Sorry about that. Yeah, there's situations where you're dealing with tenants, low-income folks and stuff like that. And from time to time, they are going to basically, come to a roadblock. And the question is, what do you do? The easiest thing to do is to just get rid of them because it's the nature of the business. But then you have to look and say, well, what can I do to really help this person? Are there resources out there that I can help this person find? Can I give them some time? Can I try to understand their situation? But at the end of the day, it has to be a business sense. It's not about saying, okay, well, I'm going to do this for the person for an extended period of time, and then if things doesn't work out, then I'm going to really put them outside. So what you try to do, you think of various resources that's out there within the community. You might have to, say, okay, I have looked into it, this particular place may be able to help you, offer some help to you, so why don't you check this thing out? And then you have to be very understanding in terms of what's going on and understand that situation do changes from time to time. As the person in charge, you need to help to find a solution. Like I told you about this particular situation, Milwaukee is a very diverse community. From time to time, there are a lot of drug dealings and stuff going on. And one of the worst things you want to hear as a landlord is to get a call from the police department and say, hey, this is what's going on to your property. So I explained about a recent situation where I got called in, and I went and I spoke to the person. I said, this is the information that came to me. I think you have a choice. The choice is you can just take your stuff and you can go, or we can try and work through this thing together. And by doing that, I said, okay, well, let me find you some resources that may be able to help you. So I spoke to a lady who worked at this organization. She came in, she spoke to the gentleman. She said, hey, we can help you get your GED. We can help you to find some type of job. We can give you some job training and various things so you can move away from actually what you're trying to do. Now, my approach in that situation was I could have just said, look, you need to get out of here. But I'm thinking, okay, I put this person out on the street. He's just probably going to move to the next corner and set up shop, keep doing what he's doing. Next minute, he's probably going to be in jail, like so many of the young guys in Milwaukee. It doesn't really make sense. So how can I use my values that I've learned here at Stretch, Cardinal Stretch, in terms of doing well while I'm serving the community? So I thought, in my own perspective, that was a good thing where I try to get him some help so that he can see that there's a different option to what he's actually doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've really been taken throughout the day today. I think you have said very clearly in different ways that you feel you could influence and change the nature and the strength of the fabric of the community through your business in an impactful way.
Well, that is correct. Starting next year, what we're actually doing is lots that I do have sitting there empty, where we cut grass, pay people to cut the grass and stuff like that. We're looking at getting the community very much involved in that particular situation. So we are thinking about doing a community garden. There's one particular location that I've identified so far. It's a really big lot. It's just sitting there. So the idea is to bring the kids, bring their family out. They each have a little spot to plant their, whatever, tomato, carrot, cabbages, whatever they want to plant. And I think that way is, if you bring the community together in that one location and they can work together, and these kids can see how people get along, how they can do things, while they have some ownership in terms of what they're doing, then I think it may be a positive change for that particular location in the city of Milwaukee.
I want to circle back, and then I'm just going to ask one or two more questions and then open it up. But I want to circle back to sort of the brass tacks of your business, if we could. I know you've been asked a couple of times today, but if you could share again, you're down the line now of owning this business for a while and have a number of properties in the construction business, but you had to start somewhere.
Right.
And so could you talk just briefly about where did you start? How did you begin to build a new business?
Okay, actually, I have to give some credit to my wife for starting a business, because actually, when we came here from California, one of the surprising things to me, and this is no insult to Milwaukee, I just didn't know that houses were this cheap. Okay, that was my first thing. I was very surprised. I was like, no, it's not possible. We can't get a house for this small amount of money. Now, I wasn't thinking that, well, it's Milwaukee, it's a different area. That's just the way it is. It's not that it's cheap. You're just in a different side of the world. So from that perspective, my wife was the one who actually wanted to get in the whole business first. I have to give her credit for that. I think the first 2 or 3 properties that we got, she was very, very much involved. But as life happened, she started pulling back, and I wanted to go forward. And so that's basically what happened. I just took it and run with it, and kept going and going and going. But to say what really got it started, I have to give her the credit, because she was very, very instrumental there.
And I suspect you might get some questions from the crowd about other aspects of financing and building the capital from there, and your thoughts about equity and so forth. But the last question I would have for now is, so you hire some people, you work with a lot of contractors,
I have, yes.
and you also hire different people to help run this business.
That's correct.
And so, in addition to a strict degree, what else do you look for when you're hiring people?
Well, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for passion. The thing is this, I recently, I have to say this, even though I wasn't planning on saying this, I had a guy the other day who was working for me, and I left him there for 5 hours in this room. He was actually doing something in the room. I thought he would have been done in 30 minutes. I came back 5 hours later, and he was still in the room, and I said to him, "You're still in the same room. What's going on?" And he said to me, "Well, I'm not that motivated, And I was like, "You're not motivated?" And he's like, "No." I said, "What's up?" "Well, I think I need to get more money." And I was like, "Well, you just don't stop working and tell me." I said, "Do you have a passion for what you're doing?" "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, you need to have a passion for what you're doing, because if you're telling me that all you need is to get more money, if I give you more money, will I get more work out of you, or are you going to probably be motivated for maybe another 2 weeks?" And then you say, "Well, I need more money." At what point in time do you tell me that, Garfield, I'm very, very passionate about what I'm doing, and therefore I want us to succeed together? So going back to your question, I would say to any student here at Stritch, if you're getting involved in this business, passion has to be the key, number one key. You have to have a passion for what you're doing. You need to love what you're doing, because the real estate business is a very, very tough business. You know, most of the people in real estate will tell you you probably have sleepless nights. You know, and do you just throw the towel in when the rough get going? I mean, when stuff gets rough and tough, it doesn't work that way. So by having a passion for the business, you realize that, hey, you know, problems will come, but I can overcome this thing because I believe in what I'm doing. And I believe that's the main thing. And also, beside passion, you know, finish your education at Stritch, because it will take you very far.
Well, thank you, and we want to open up the conversation now. And if you don't mind, maybe we'll stand up and go down here and loosen up a little bit. So I want to open the questions. I want to ask you a question first, though. Just since we have an entrepreneur up front here in the room, how many people are in the process of or looking to start a new business within, let's say, the next 2 or 3 years? Good bunch, yeah. Just curious about that. Okay, so your turn to ask questions. What questions might you have for Garfield? And when you speak, if you wouldn't mind standing up and saying your name and then asking the question, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Evelyn. I'm from Senegal, and I like the fact that you're giving back to the community. But for being a foreigner, my question is how are you extending that overseas, especially that now we talk about globalization? How are you impacting Jamaica?
That's a very good question. Now, let me answer that question. The thing about Jamaica is that the population is close to about, I would say, 2.5, 2.7 million people here. Outside of Jamaica, I think there's a very big Jamaican community. I think in Florida, I think the number, based on what I heard, is probably about the same size in terms of what's in Jamaica. Now, Jamaica is a country receive, I would say, a little over $2 billion each year, money that Jamaicans actually send back home to, to Jamaica. So, I mean, just to answer your question directly, as a Jamaican living here, you always have a sense of responsibility to those people who are living back home. So, you know, you really try to impact the community there as well as you can. But one thing you have to remember is, I'm very happy to be living here in the United States. And I believe that because I'm living here in the United States and I have done well because of the fact that I'm living here, that I also have a responsibility to the community here in the United States. So it's not that I'm going to send everything I have back to Jamaica, which is wonderful. You know, I do that as much as I can, but the community that I work in, operate in, I have to also help that community, because if I don't know who's going to do that. And I usually tell folks I'm very, very bullish on Milwaukee. Bullish in the sense that I see Milwaukee as a great city. I mean, sometimes when I say that, people think I'm a little bit crazy, but I see the possibilities. I see if you can tell me 50 things negative about Milwaukee, I probably can tell you 100 positive things about Milwaukee. So really for me, I would like to grow Milwaukee as best as I can and build on what is there.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Teresa Woods. Thank you so very much for coming in and sharing. I too received my MBA from Stretch in 03, and I had that same stats professor for quantitative analysis in 03, and I'm like, oh, he still teaches. So I can relate to some of the things that you're saying.
We all remember him, right?
Yeah. Currently, I'm working on my PhD here at Stretch as well in leadership, so I can relate to you on that note as well. My question for you gears more towards your finance experience. How did you go about financing your enterprise, or I guess say your empire? And you talk about real estate and how the real estate in Milwaukee is so cheap. Were you able to pay from the equity to buy more property, or can you tell me about your experiences of how you got started?
Sure. Well, let me clarify the whole statement I made about Milwaukee being cheap. It's not that it's not that real estate in Milwaukee is cheap. If you're coming from California, specifically San Jose, Silicon Valley, right, and then if you look at the prices of real estate there, where I would say the average 3-bedroom home might be as much as $450,000. And you come to Milwaukee and you see there's a house for $75,000, and you not understanding Milwaukee market, you're like, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not saying I'm in Milwaukee, I'm in America. That's the big difference. So when you're a migrant and you're someone, you're coming to America, you don't say, well, New York is different, Florida is different, this state is different, outside of it being cold. You're in the United States, so you really don't have the knowledge and understanding that price is different in various cities. So in a situation when I came, I was like, wow, this is really, property are really affordable here. So going back to the whole financing situation is, we came from California, and I would say that we came to Milwaukee, we had some money when we got here. I'm not going to say it was a lot of money, but we had some money. So having some money and then see the prices of property, you are then able to go in and sort of do what you call a cash purchase, so to speak. Then from there, as you mentioned, then you start leveraging what you do have because you build equity pretty quickly and you're able to take out money from one property and put money into the next property. And that's basically the way we started out. But like everybody else, at some point in time, we had to go to the banks, and we had to get mortgages and loans and stuff like that. And I would say that's where we are today. So, I mean, you started out with what you have, and then you try to use whatever resources are available out there.
Question up front. It's part of the wellness program, I appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Belinda Hull. My question for you is, in the next 2 to 3 years, I hope to be a successful business owner. Can you give me 3 tips in just starting a new business here in Milwaukee?
Well, that's a very good question. Now, like I say, I'm very bullish on Milwaukee. I'm very positive about Milwaukee. And the reason for that is I have been to other states. I've seen the way other states work. And most people think that Milwaukee is the worst place you can ever be. And to me, I can say, no, that's not the case. The reason why I say that is working outside and actually I like to talk about MPS a lot. People say like, well, why do you talk about MPS? And I said, well, the thing is that because I was in the classroom and then being a landlord, I'm in people's home, and so I can sort of see the connection between what's going on in the classroom and what's going on in the home, and also what's going on, on the street and stuff like that. So going back directly to your question is, personally, I think Milwaukee has what it takes to get to the next stage and get to the next level, right? Now, you need to believe in the business that you are doing. I say that because we all know that for business failure within the first 4 to 5 years is close to 50%, which means 50% of those who start will fail within the first 5 years. So I would say you need to have a really solid business plan. Just having an idea and say, well, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to just make some money, it won't work. It won't work. You need to have a business plan, you need to test your business plan, you need to do your feasibility study, and once you get all of that done, then I would say in order to guarantee yourself some sort of success, you probably want to do what is called an incremental approach, where you get to one stage, then you set your goal, you get to one stage, then you get to the next stage, and you get to the next stage. And if you can do a stage, a stage situation, then you should be successful.
Yeah, in the back.
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Braverman, and I'm alumni. 09, like you, Masters in Business Management. My question is two-part. What do you enjoy the most about what you do? And then what do you find the most challenging?
Well, I like freedom. Let's put it that way. It's really good when you're your own boss, and I'm not saying that because you basically do whatever you want. You can do it. It doesn't work that way. But the freedom in that you set your own objective, your own agenda, and you say to yourself, this is what I want to achieve today, this month, or this year, and then you can work towards those things. The difference between working for someone else is that even though you are working
Sorry about that. As I was saying, you have your freedom to decide what it is that you want to do and how much you want to achieve. Now, just saying I want to achieve X doesn't mean it will happen, but you do have the chance and the possibility of doing that if you really work towards achieving that. Now, I'll say this to you, that when you work for someone else, which I'll tell folks all the time, it's not necessarily the worst thing to do, because if you look at it from an opportunity cost perspective, we learn that you eat on, giving up one good for another good. You could work for someone else and you could make as much and be just as happy as you're working for yourself. But if you decide to work for yourself, the only limitation you have is those that you actually place on yourself. So if you can remove all the limitations and say, you know what, I'm going to be the best I can be, and I'm going to go as fast as I can, as far as I can, then I think you can achieve it.
Challenging.
Very challenging.
No,
Now,
what do you find out?
Now, for the challenging part of it is this. It's always difficult to deal with all the social issues that you have, especially for me in Milwaukee, because what I found when I came in is, at first it was a little cultural thing, in terms of expectation, and then you realize in order to be very successful in a particular culture, you need to understand the culture. And so you can't just say, well, this culture is just this way. It's about understanding the culture. So the challenging part for me was understanding the folks that I was dealing with. And once I got a chance to know them intimately, in the sense that I understand the way they're the way they're thinking, then I sort of break down the challenges and stuff like that.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. I'm Ryan Leeser. I'm an alum and also an adjunct here at Stritch. And so my question for you, has your background and has the color of your skin, has it caused people to discount your abilities, and has it made the road harder, or has it just been no, haven't even paid attention to it? And then the second part is, what's your vision? What's 5 years, 10 years look like for you? Is where you headed, or if you can share, if you want to share.
Oh, sure. Well, let's talk about the whole thing about my background, the color of my skin, because that's a very good question. But one of the unique things that work, I would say, in my favor is I'm from Jamaica. Now, not because I'm from Jamaica I mean I'm special. It just simply means that a lot of the social issues and problems that people in Milwaukee faces daily isn't something that you deal with in Jamaica. The fact that I didn't sort of grow up here and, went to school here in my early days, then I'm sort of removed from that. So from a mental perspective, when I hear people say certain things, I am somewhat in the dark about it because I'm not used to certain things. So personally, I'm not constrained by that, So someone may say something negative about me, and I may hear what they say, but it really doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't resonate because it really doesn't mean anything to me. Let's put it that way. So because of that, I'm able to overcome certain things. And then I deal with specifics, So if we're dealing with business, then we're dealing with business. The way I present myself is, I look at things from a win-win perspective. It's not that I'm looking to win so you can lose. So if I present a win-win perspective and say, hey, we can all survive, we can all win, I think that's very attractive to anyone. It doesn't matter your skin color, because everyone wants to win, or at least they want to walk away from the table with something. So as long as you can guarantee someone something that makes sense to them, I think they're willing to do business.
Michael Snowden, you talked a lot about passion, having passion. What would you say is your passion, and how did you find it?
Well, like I said, I've done so many things in the past, and I guess in the future I might be doing a whole bunch of stuff also. My number one passion for me is learning. Like I said, I've always been in school, undergrad, master's, this, now onto the whole doctorate situation. I believe that knowledge is something that really gives you, you learn, things changes, So if you picked up a degree, say, somewhere in the 70s, and look at where we are right now, as much as I'm in school right now, I find that there are certain things that I still don't even know because everything changes so fast. So for me, developing a passion of learning is always very, very important because knowledge is something that you can use to take you to the next level.
So as a business owner and a landlord, I'm sure you've maybe been burned by being too kind at times. How do you walk that line to maintain your positive and goodwill nature, but also not feel like you might get taken advantage of on an occasion or too many times?
I think all landlords go through that from time to time, doesn't matter. But that's a very good question though. Now the reality is, like I said, it's all about business. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how well you want to do in the community or how well you want to do for someone. It boils down to the bottom line. So this is the situation. I have a philosophy. I will help someone if I think they need help or they genuinely need help. Okay? So if it's a situation where someone is just sitting back and they're like, well, I don't care, you can do whatever you want to do. So my take is, if I see that you need help and you're in a position to receive the help, then I'll try and help you. Because this is one thing I try to do. Now, if I have to say go to the courthouse and I start the eviction process, I have to take time to go down there. Then I got to pay some money to do that. I got to pay someone to serve the paper. Then I have to go to court. I may have to sit there 3-4 hours to deal with this. Then I have to wait another week or two. Then I got to go back, get the sheriff, get the moving truck, and all of these various things. So when I look at all of that, in business they say time is money. So what do? Okay, maybe the situation where the person really needs some help. Maybe they just need a day or two or a week to sort out their situation. So I sit with them and I said, hey, let's talk about this thing and see how we can come together and find a solution to the problem. And that's what I try to do. Now, in some cases, it worked. I've had situations where I saw 100% that I was good to go, only to find out that I was being burnt. And then I said, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I tried. Now I have to do what I should have done from day one, and this is it.
Hello, my name is Michelle Daniels. My husband and I currently own 3 properties. We're looking to go further on. My question to you is, how do you separate the personal? Have you ever rented to someone you know? Because I feel like my cousin's tenants be the ones that I know. And if you have rented to someone you, how do you separate the business from the personal to be able to build you guys? I tried 3 or 5 ways.
Well, that question is very relevant, especially in the real estate business. They always say family members, friends, and stuff like those, because those are the people closest to you. You are quick to rent, put them in your places. And those are the people who are quick not to pay. Let's put it that way, okay? Because, oh, she's my cousin, she'll understand that I'm going through a hard time and stuff like that. So usually for me, I have this philosophy. Most times, I don't rent to people that I know. That's it. I will recommend them to someone else because they don't know that person. And then they're not going to say to the person, well, you understand my situation because you know me and we're very close. And then again, there are not many people that I really know here that much. So it's not like I say, well, I have a cousin and so I don't have anyone like that, so I don't have to deal with that. But my advice to you would be plain and simple is, it's a business. Don't get your family involved. Well, when I say don't get your family involved, I'm saying you don't have to rent to them. You don't have to be obligated. You can just rent to total strangers. It's better to do it that way because then you can separate the emotion from, oh, I don't want to put my cousin out. How I feel so bad for my cousin. Your cousin doesn't understand that you have to pay the bills. The mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and all the various things. You have to do that regardless. It doesn't matter. So once you understand that you have to do that, move away from the family and rent to total strangers.
You have a lot of head nodding back here, if you didn't see it. A lot of people agreeing. We have time just for one or two more questions. You had a question?
Hi, my name is Danielle Outlaw, and I want to know, have you sold any property to any of your tenants?
No, no. I've never sold anything to any of my tenants. However, there are a few of them that if they do get their financial situation together, I would be more than happy to sell to them. Because I believe that, looking at my situation and my values, I think that if I'm in a position to help my tenants, then I'll do so. You know, from transitioning from being a tenant to be a homeowner. I'm more than willing to do that. And in fact, the first tenant that we started out with, I keep telling her, I said, you know, you have been living in this home for many, many years. I am willing to sell you this property. And she said, oh, I mean, she had been telling me for the last 13 years that she would buy the property next year. Oh, I'm going to buy it next year. And I said, okay, you know, when you're ready, let me know. It's right here for you. And I would be more than happy to sell her that property because I explained the situation to her. I said, you know, real estate is one of the things that you can really use to create wealth. You know, I mean, especially in Milwaukee, in the black community. And this is what I say when I drive down the street in Milwaukee and I see all these boarded up buildings and stuff. I tell folks, you know, I don't see boarded up building. I see money just sitting there idle, doing nothing. You know, and each property has a particular value assigned to it. It could be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 just sitting there. And to me, these are equities and stuff that people can use, and they can build on that. And you know, it doesn't matter creating wealth. You could start with 5,000, you move to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 30,000. That's just, you know, you can start small and grow. So I find it very, very strange that there's so many properties in Milwaukee that's just sitting there idle.
And Garfield wraps up our series for this part of the I don't like saying semesters, we have most of you are here year-round, but for this calendar year, Garfield wraps it up, and I must say wraps it up in style and with class, and we really appreciate you spending the time here today with the students and all day. Since noon, he's been here talking with folks on campus.